read 15 books this month. Who am I? Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Francesca, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing an August reading wrap-up. This month was a really good month. I read 15 books. Well, last month was a really good month. I read 15 books in the month of August, which is insane for me. I typically read like 5 books a month. Like, I never do that much, but I have a lot of free time, and I was really grinding through these books. And it was a really good reading month. I'm excited to talk about all the books. I have my matcha. We're ready to go. Also, look at my cute little shirt. It says, all this late night reading can't keep you off my mind. If you know, you know. First book I'm going to talk about is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. I read this book at the beginning of the month. I did a little bit of a reading vlog on it. I gave this book a 5 stars, so this was my first 5-star read of the month. This follows a girl and a boy who grew up as childhood best friends. Their moms were best friends growing up, and so they kind of raised them together. They've always been together, and they've always had feelings for each other, but neither one of them knew that. It kind of just shows their lives after they drifted apart in middle school, in high school, and then it'll give you flashbacks to when they were kids. It truly is such a beautifully heartbreaking book. If you've read this, then you know. I'm not going to say anything more. I don't want to spoil it, but this book was just truly so beautiful. The writing style was really easy to read. It was young adult, so it's not going to be anything crazy like that, but the way that it was written just made me want to keep reading it. Like, I couldn't put it down. I think I read this book in like a day or 2. It was just so good. I loved it. I need to read the second one. I haven't read that yet. I need to get that. I don't have it, but it was just so beautiful. I think about Finny and Autumn daily. The next book I'm going to talk about is Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. I gave this a 4-star rating. Now that I'm looking back on it, I kind of want to give it maybe like a 3.75. I don't find myself thinking about this book that often. Like, I kind of forgot that I read this early on in the month, but at the time of reading it, I did enjoy it, but it hasn't been sticking with me since I read it, so that's why I think I want to lower it to like a 3.75. It's still really good. I would still recommend it, but not my favorite. I was at Barnes, and I thought it was really cute. I mean, just like the cover and the sprayed edges like really caught my attention. Like, it's a beautiful book. But then I read the back and it was really fun. It's like some type of magical game that this demon prince is kind of stuck in. One of his trials is to find this artist in this town and try to convince her to paint this hexed image, and she's like refusing. It is kind of enemies to lovers. It was really fun. The trials were pretty cool to read about. There's vampires, there's fae, there's demon princes. I liked it. It was a fun little read. Would I reread it? I don't know, but I would recommend it. If someone was asking me for like just a fun fantasy read, I would definitely recommend this, but it was fun. There is spice in this, and the throne scene, yeah. It wasn't my favorite read, but it wasn't a bad read either. The next book I read was 6 Crows by Lee Bardugo. Sorry if I'm butchering that. This is more of a higher fantasy type of book. It follows 6 characters, 6, right? Yeah, I think it was 6 characters, and they're kind of in this like deadly heist and trying to survive that. They're trying to go through the heist and stuff, but this book was really character driven, and that's what I personally liked about it. Oh, I did give this, I think I gave this like a 4-star rating or 4.75. It was between a 4 and a 5. I don't know. I'll put the right star rating when I look at my Goodreads later. But this was a really good read. I really enjoyed this. But what I liked most about it was that it was super character driven, and there was found family in this, and I love a good found family trope. And the found family in this was just like none other that I've read before. This is another young adult book. There's no there's like a subplot of romance, but that's not what got to me. Like, I loved the found family. If you're into found family and you like fantasy, like, this is a really good read. It was super easy to read. I felt like grasping the fantasy world in this was pretty easy for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I would recommend this 100%. The next book that I read was The Serpent of the Wings and Night by Carissa Broadbent. This book, if you're an ACOTAR girly, like, you would love this book. This is like Vampire Diaries. This is like vampires in like the Hunger Games, but it has that like feel of ACOTAR, like the world building and just the like you know, when you first read ACOTAR, it really just grabbed your attention, and like you were sucked into it. That's what I felt with this. And so it reminded me of ACOTAR a lot in that sense, but just there's trials in this. The trials reminded me of the Hunger Games, but there are vampires. There is some spice in it. I wouldn't say it's super spicy, but there is some spice. I really enjoyed this. I believe this was a 4-star rating for me. I would recommend this 100%, and I think it was a really fun read. And if you like fantasy, and especially if you like Sarah J. Maas, this is a really good one. The next book that I read is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I gave this a 4-star rating, and the only reason I gave this a 4-star rating was because when I started this book in like July, and I only ever got to like chapter 3, and I kept trying to like restart it, and I would never get past chapter 3. I don't know what it was. I think it was me. I just probably wasn't, I feel like I was trying to read it at a time that wasn't good for me. So it was like right book, wrong time scenario. But then I finally got into it, and I could not put it down. And I absolutely loved this so much. Kai, I think about Kai and Peyton so often. This follows this world where there's these group of people called ordinaries, and there's the elites. So the elites are people who have this like some sort of magical powers, and ordinaries are just regular people. They don't have any powers. And so basically they are trying to get rid of all the ordinaries in this world. Like, they do not want a single ordinary person in their world. So there's this guy named Kai, and he is like the future enforcer. So he's the one that's going out there and looking for ordinaries when he's told that there's an ordinary nearby, and he's getting rid of them, okay? And then there's Peyton. Peyton is an ordinary, but she's been living as if she was an elite, but nobody was able to catch on because she tells everyone that her power is that she's a psychic. And her dad, actually, who was an elite, kind of raised her to be that way, to teach her how to survive and to teach her how to be able to read other people's like body language and like surroundings and stuff in order to predict these psychic abilities. And she's like able to get away with it. She's, I believe, like 17 or 18. She's like a teen. And so far she's done good. She's alive, and she's living amongst the elites. She's also a thief. She's poor. She's an ordinary, so she's poor. She's living out on the streets, and her way of finding any type of income really is like stealing. Like, she will rob people's money. And one day she robs Kai. At the time she didn't know who Kai was. Kai is this prince. I forgot to mention he's the king's son. Okay. She's out on the streets and she robs Kai. They like talk. They kind of like, I don't know. Oh, I forgot to mention Kai's ability is to be able to like take and use other people's abilities. And so with that, he's able to tell or like feel. He can feel when you have an ability. So that's how he can tell who's an ordinary and who's an elite. But when he runs into Peyton, of course, he doesn't feel anything towards her. So he was suspecting that she was an ordinary, but she convinced him that she was a psychic, and whatever. She ends up robbing from him, and then she gets away, and then she sees that he gets into a problem, and she runs back and she saves him. So because she saved him, I guess this world does these like trials. They're like pretty deadly trials, and they nominate people to do them, and Peyton gets nominated to join these trials because she saved the king's son. And so it follows that. It kind of reminded me of the Hunger Games a little bit as well, like Divergent almost. Like, you get that type of vibe in this world, and it was just really fun. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know why it took me so long to get into this book. I heard it was enemies to lovers, but it's not enemies to lovers. Like, Kai was down bad for her from the very beginning. Like, their first interaction, like, he was attracted to her. So I don't know who said it was an enemies to lovers. It is Hunter and Huntress, because he's supposed to be hunting her down. But that's all I can really say. It was a good book. Definitely recommend. The next 3 books that I read are A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, and A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I'm not really going to go into super detail because these were rereads for me. I have read these before like 2 years ago. I'm really just going to tell you, I love this one. Love, love, love. It's super good. A Court of Wings and Ruin, I feel like, is really underrated in the ACOTAR family. Everyone talks about A Court of Mist and Fury, and don't get me wrong, I love A Court of Mist and Fury because Valaris, like everybody, that's the whole reason. Everybody loves Valaris. We love the good, like, Rhysand introduction and like meeting the Bat Boys, Cassian and Azriel, like that's super fun. But this one is highly underrated. I absolutely love this one. I love the war. It's beautiful. Next, A Court of Frost and Starlight. It's not my favorite, personally. I know it's like a little bit of a filler book, and it's a fun read. Like, you get to see them in a different type of world. Like, you get to see them like happy. They're not really worrying about much. Like, it's the Christmas episode of the series, and that's always fun, but personally, I could go without it. Sorry. And then lastly, A Court of Silver Flames. Cassian, like, that's all I gotta say. It's a great book. It was a great book. It was definitely the spiciest book in the series. Cassian and Nesta. I love Nesta. I'm not a Nesta hater. I know a lot of people don't like her. I love her. But I don't know. All I know is I need an Azriel book. Azriel needs his book because I know Azriel's the one for me. I know it. We don't have his book, but I know Azriel is the one for me, and I need that book. I need that book. I need that book bad, and I need it to be like this. Okay? Not like A Court of Mist and Fury. Don't get me wrong, I love Rhysand and chapter 55, but I need this for Azriel. Please and thank you. Next, I read Daydream by Hannah Grace. This was a highly anticipated purchase for me. I read Icebreaker and Wildfire back when they were released, and I thought they were really fun. I don't understand the hate that Icebreaker gets. Like, yeah, it's smutty, but like, so what? It's a fun read. People are taking some books like way too seriously. Like, let people read what they want to read. If I want to read hockey smut, let me read hockey smut. It's not that serious. Okay, it's just fun. But anyways, when I read Icebreaker, obviously we were introduced to Henry, and Henry was the perfect man. The perfect man. And I knew when I first read that I needed a Henry book. If I didn't get a Henry book, I was gonna be really, really upset. And so I'm really glad that she finally came out with a Henry book. And he's perfect. He's exactly what he was meant to be. And Hallie herself is me, and I am her. I feel that Hannah Grace was like spying on me and my personality and stuff. I don't know. And she wrote her into this book because why is she a Swiftie, a book lover, a romance book lover, an eldest daughter with eldest daughter trauma? Like, that is me. I've never felt so attached to a character. Like, I've never related to a character so much like I do to Hallie. And for that reason alone, I will always love this book. Hallie's personality, my personality too, like, my love language is acts of service, and Henry delivers it so perfectly. He's the acts of service king. Him and Justin from Just for the Summer are like this. They're like this to me. Those are my acts of service kings. This was my favorite out of all the books. It's not as smutty as Icebreaker. Icebreaker definitely had more spice. This one was definitely, there was spice, but like, it was a slow burn for sure. And it was not a lot. I liked it a lot. I think I gave this a 4-star rating. I'm not sure. I'm so bad at this. I keep forgetting what I rated these. I have them on my Goodreads though. So I will put the right rating when I edit the video. Next book that I read is Beach Read by Miss Emily Henry. My absolute, probably my favorite author of all time. Every single book that I've read by Emily Henry has always been a 5-star read. This was definitely a 5-star read. Like, Gus. I love him. I'm in love with him. He's perfect. Gus in January, I am still thinking about. I think about all of my book boyfriends and book girlfriends religiously. And when it comes to Emily Henry, the reason I love Emily Henry so much is because her writing is just so realistic, and I relate a lot to her characters. I don't know how she does it, but I feel so deeply every single time I read one of her books. And that's exactly what this book did for me. It is the perfect, now it is called Beach Read, and you know, it is a fun beach read. It's set in the summertime. It's set, there's beach houses, like they're living in beach homes. But one thing about Miss Emily Henry is that she's always gonna have a tearjerker chapter, a tearjerker scene, And she definitely did in this one. Like, I was definitely crying, but I love her. You can never go wrong with her, truly. She's perfect. She's perfect, 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 perfect. And I love this book. This was a 5-star read. If I didn't say it before, I think I said it. This was a 5-star read. I know that for a fact. Miss Emily Henry never fails me. And I can't wait to read People We Meet on Vacation, because that is the only other book by Miss Emily Henry that I haven't read. So hopefully I buy that soon and I can read it soon, because I just need more Emily Henry in my life. Always. The next book that I read was Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I loved this book. I believe this was 5 stars or 4. Sorry. I don't remember. I'll put the right one. Anyways, this book was wonderful. This book was so good. Daisy Hates is the main character, the female main character, and she is the sister of a gang lord named Julian. And basically this was giving like mafia vibes in London's high society. This is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe series thing. She was basically raised by Julian. I don't know what to say. This book was just so good. I loved Daisy Hates. I loved Magnolia Parks, but I think I'm a Daisy Hates girl as of right now. I just got the next 2 books in the series and I haven't read them, so we'll see if I like Magnolia more after reading her second book, or if I like Daisy more after reading her second book. I don't know, but I think I liked Daisy a lot, Daisy and Christian a lot more than Magnolia and BJ. Magnolia and BJ were really toxic. Now, Daisy and Christian, the whole Magnolia Parks universe is very toxic from what I've gathered. It's just all a mess. It's not there's no cute romance. It's all very intense romance. You're not gonna get like a cute little rom-com when it comes to the Magnolia Parks universe. Like, it's just so hauntingly beautiful. I feel like that's the way I can describe this. I don't know. It's hard to put into words for me, but all I know is that this resonated with me so much and I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Magnolia Parks has a lot of hype and I see why. It's so good. I would love to reread this again. Even though I just read it, I would do anything to reread it again. And I can't wait to read the next 2. I'm so excited to read that. Next book that I read was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this was, I believe I gave this a 4-star rating. This was like nothing I've ever read before. This was definitely a very unique read for me. This was a first timer for me. This is more like magical realism, I want to say. This follows this girl, Clementine, who had this aunt who recently passed away, and when her aunt passed away, she left her home. And her aunt has always said that her home like carried some magic within it. And so when she moves into this house, she sees this man cooking meals for her. And what she doesn't realize is that this man is stuck 7 years in the past and she's 7 years in the future. They have this really beautiful romance, but of course the problem is that he's in the past and she's in the future, and like what the hell? Like, what is going on? It's just nothing like I've ever read before. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this might be a 5-star read. I don't know, maybe 4.75. And the next 2 books that I read are Finding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is in the Boys of Tommen series. I know I'm super late. I'm absolutely super late. I don't know why it took me so long to read this series. Like, everyone has always talked about it, and for some reason I wasn't listening, but I'm listening now. And I sobbed so much. So much. If you don't know, basically this follows this girl named Shannon, and Shannon comes from an abusive household. Her dad is an abuser, and she grew up going to school and she was really bullied in school, like really bad. Like, this girl, I don't know how she was even alive. It was really bad. Her home life was horrible. Her school life was horrible. Her mom too is also not good. Like, I understand her mom is a victim. Obviously she's abused as well, but she never helped her kids. And like, the best thing that she probably did was get Shannon out of her current school and move her to the Tommen school. I believe it's a private school. It's a more expensive school, so her dad is obviously throwing like all these fits because they're paying to take her to this really expensive school that they can't afford or whatever. But she's so severely bullied at her old school that she just needed a new change of pace. On her first day of school, she's running late to a class, and so she thought it would be a good idea to like run through the rugby field or whatever to get to class. And so she does that, and when she's running through the field, she gets hit in the head with a ball and it knocks her out. Basically, she gets like a concussion, and the person that hit her in the head was Johnny Kavanagh, and he's like this big shot rugby player. Like, he's the biggest rugby player in Ireland right now. He's getting ready to move on to play for like the Dublin team or whatever right after he graduates from high school. He's the best player in the school. Like, he's just this big shot rugby player. When he hits Shannon on the head, he's obviously there, he's trying to protect her. He's like scared out of his mind because he thought he like killed the girl because she literally passed out, and so he was really worried and whatever. And from the moment that he met her, he could tell that there was something deep going on within this girl's mind. Like, he could just see it in her eyes that there's something really broken about her, and he couldn't let it go. He could not let it go, and basically morphs from there. This is such a beautiful love story to me. I cried so much just reading Shannon's like perspective when she's at home and then when she's at school and stuff. Like, she's happy to be at her new school. She finally finds peace at her new school, but her home life is still so bad, and you can just tell how broken she is by her thought process. Like, she second guesses everything. She has major anxiety. Like, she doesn't trust anyone. And I just love it. And I felt so bad for her. I cried for her so much. And for her brother, Joey. Like, I loved them. And Johnny Kavanagh is the perfect man. The perfect man. Like, he does have a little bit of a temper problem. Not to her, though. He has a temper problem towards other people trying to get to her. Like, he just protects her so well, and it's just such a beautiful love story. When they said that their song was She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5, I wanted to cry because that is the most perfect song to describe them. And I can never listen to that song without thinking of Johnny and Shannon ever again. Like, they are my Roman Empire. I have not stopped thinking about them. I need to move on to the next 3 books in this series. I think the next 2 books are about Joey, Shannon's older brother, and I heard that's like the fan favorite, and I'm like, if I love Johnny and Shannon this much, I don't know what's waiting for me. Like, I'm a little bit scared because I had to read another book while reading this because I knew this was going to put me into a reading slump if I stopped reading it. Like, it's that good. They were both 5-star ratings for me. I loved them. I don't know what took me so long to read them, but I'm listening now and I'm fully invested, and I am obsessed. I love them so much. Like, you have no idea. I'm talking so much. Last book that I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy of. I read it on my Kindle, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. That was a 5-star rating for me. That book is a memoir. I've never read memoirs. Like, that was my first one. I read strictly fiction books, like romance fiction. Like, that's what I like to read, okay? I don't read memoirs, but I kept seeing it on TikTok, and people kept saying that it was really good, especially if you're a girl in your 20s. And I'm like, you know what? I'm 24. I'm a girl. I'm gonna pick it up. And they were right. They were right. I strongly believe that every single girl in her 20s needs to read that book. It is just so beautiful. Just her perspective on love and her life and her friendships and how she's dealt with them is just so beautiful. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It definitely gave me a new perspective. Like, I'm not even trying to be extra or dramatic or anything. Like, it truly did give me a new outlook on life, on my friendships, on my relationships with people. It's a wonderful book. I gave it a 5-star rating. And what I really want to do is I really want to purchase the physical copy and annotate it for myself, but then I want to get 3 more and annotate them as well and give it to each one of my 3 best friends, because I feel like they would truly love it too. And I just feel like everyone deserves to read that book. And there's just something about that book that's so special to me, and like being able to annotate it myself and like giving it to my friends just feels like such a special gift, and I really want to do that one day. So hopefully I will. I'm not even good at annotating. Like, I don't really know how to do that. I just underline as I read and like whatever sticks out to me. But like, that is one book that I really want to dissect and like just fully immerse myself in it and annotate it like crazy and then give it to my best friends, because I just love them. I loved it so much. Those were all of the 15 books that I read in the month of August. Let me know if you guys read any of them, what your thoughts and opinions were on those books. This was a really good month for me. I enjoyed almost every single one of these books. Yeah, I enjoyed every single one except for like The Court of Frost and Starlight, but that was a reread, so it was a lot easier to read this time. But I vlogged all of my books. I really hope you guys liked them. I really hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it a like. Please subscribe. If you guys want to follow me on all my other social media, I'll have everything linked down below. If you have any other book recommendations for me, please let me know. I'm going to be filming a September TBR soon, and I do have a good selection of what I want to do. I don't know if I want to do the TBR jar for this month or just pick my own, because I don't know if you couldn't tell, but I didn't really follow the TBR jar. My mind went everywhere and I couldn't. I couldn't. Maybe I will do it again sometime soon and strictly follow that. But I don't know. I do have a good selection. We're getting into fall. I'm getting into my like fall mood. I want to read a lot of fantasy, dark academia. Like that's the type of vibe that I want to bring into fall. So we'll see. But yeah, that's it for my video. I really hope you guys liked it. Bye.